At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we haven't done a Worst of the Week segment in quite a few months. We used to do this all the time, but we took a little break. But there's a comic book, and I'll be honest up front. Champions number 6 isn't actually the worst comic I've read this week. It's a bad comic, but I've read, I think Avengers, I think it's 45 was certainly worse. There's a couple other ones that might have been worse, but I did want to talk about this because of the folly of trying to be kingmaker in comic books. And here to talk with me about this is comic book retailer, the critical curmudgeon himself. Pele, how you doing?
Fine. Yeah, I just found out the knuckleheads at the shop totaled the shop car. That's wonderful. I went to go get the fucking copy of this book only to find out it was sold out. We only bought 4 copies of it, so.
Well, congratulations. You sold 4 more copies than you probably should.
Yeah, probably more than they deserve. But I got the digital copy. It's just fucking awful. It's really terrible, and no one should be buying this. That's the reason why we do this fucking show, but people keep buying them anyway, so that's why we're here doing this, talking to people, telling them don't buy this shit.
So Marvel Comics kind of got lucky about 2 years ago when they signed up Eve Ewing to put on the Ironheart series. She did a better job than Brian Bendis was doing. She kind of did pretty good with the character, showed a lot of promise. She was put on this Champions book after doing, I believe it was a Marvel team up with Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man, Peter Parker variety, I believe.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe they're putting a little emphasis on Champions after, kind of just died a slow death there at the end. And the first big story arc is this Kamala's Law outlawed thing. And then Eve Ewing just kind of disappeared. I guess she's not going to be working with Marvel anymore. So they brought in, I guess, the next creator that they're hoping, or they're pinning some hopes on of being a big deal. Well, I don't know if it's grooming. They're certainly putting them up there and hoping that they catch fire. And it's Danny Lord. And one of the big problems I'm seeing is people are being set up for failure left and right in comic books. You've got people like Donny Cates and other big creators going out there saying, like, Danny Lore is the next big thing in comic books. Check out Champion. It's a great comic. Danny Lore might well be a next great writer in comic books. I don't know this, Bailey. I can't predict the future. But I can tell you, just based on Champions number 6, they're not a great comic book writer yet. So why don't we let them get a good comic story, something they can be proud of, before we start promoting them like they're Alan Moore or something like that. And I do think that Danny Lore and other creators are being set up for failure, probably being spread too thin, and people are talking about them as if they're already superstars. Let's let them go out and earn this. So that's why we're looking at this Champions. If there wasn't any buzz about it, we certainly wouldn't have looked at it, because I don't read Champions. It's not all that interesting. But everyone said this is a big deal. So we're going to treat it like a big deal and talk about it. Now, there's some issues with this comic book. We'll get right into the art, Pele. The art is from...
Tumblr?
No, it's from Luciano Vecchio. Whether they are discovered on Tumblr, I'm not really sure. I do not know about their biography, but I do know it's not the worst thing in the history of the world, but it's essentially lifeless. It's expressionless. You wouldn't know how the characters are feeling looking at their faces. It's so stale. It's lifeless.
Yeah. It's like, it is like, it's YA comics. This is, for 6-7-year-olds, whatever. And if they were playing to that crowd, that would be something different, but they're not. As you're going to see in the storyline, it's kind of, a little bit more advanced, ideas being put forth in the narrative, but they're drawing it for little children, and there's no halftone values here. It's just like, it's two-dimensional, just blah. It's like, this is plain old two-dimensional comic book page number 1, and there's no inspiration here. There's nothing that reaches out at you. It's just, it's drab and dull and boring.
You mentioned boring, Pele, and I think that's a lot of the problem with the story here. There's not a whole lot going on that's exciting. It's a lot of explaining. So there's an opening action scene where Danny Lore is trying to make the team accidentally do something. Now, Danny Lore, the writer, is in control of everything. You can make this happen how you want to, but it's so silly and preposterous. There's a bank robbery going on with some super powered, some of them appear to have superpowers, some of them appear to have technologically advanced suits and stuff. They're going into this bank heist, but apparently it's not a bank heist. But you hear the characters talking before the champions show up. It sounds like they're there to steal stuff. When the champions show up and challenge them, they all fight toe-to-toe until the champions prevail. And then we find out after the fact that this has been some type of training mission or some type of bank security training, that they had hired these people and they were ensured that if they were attacked by superheroes, that they would be taken care of. But because of Kamala's law, the champions aren't supposed to be heroes, so they're not covered. And the team's like, oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. We messed up. And it's like, at no point did this team ever present themselves or represent themselves as some type of high-end bank security testing team.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything wrong.
No. Why would they? I mean, I just don't get what's the MO here as far as couldn't they just said, hey, we're here to test the security on this bank? You know what? What the hell?
Maybe before they get there, they're talking about, hey, remember the plan. We're supposed to hit this and this. That's part of the system test that we're doing. So then going in that they're not really bad guys. And then when they attack them, they're like, hey, listen, the bank hired us, but maybe the champions are so overzealous they beat them up anyway. And then they've really made a mistake.
Yeah.
Because based on all the information here, they did the right thing. It certainly appeared that there was a bank robbery happening. So it's preposterously stupid. And these are comic books. You're supposed to be seeing things that are a little bit ridiculous, but this defies a lot. Like, you can't read this and not come away going, that was dumb. Like, you could have set up a more logical situation to get it to where the team are arguing and feel embarrassed that they were kind of fooled by the situation.
You're right. What you said before, they're trying to make them look stupid. Because if they're trying to make the champions look stupid, then I guess they succeeded. And, they need to have Kamala's law because these people shouldn't be out, doing any damn thing on their own. They need to be at home, letting the adults do this kind of shit. It's bad. Yeah.
And I guess the other big part of the plot element that I don't know that actually works, I'm tired of seeing social media apps as the antagonist in a comic book story. Roxxon, traditionally a villainous corporation within Marvel Comics, are trying to change their image. So they're launching an app so they can connect with the young people, because hello, young people. And it's the Roxx On app, which I do find to be a little bit close to the term Roxx Off, which has a connotation to it, Pele, that might not be suitable for the age of the audience that they're going for here. But I'm tired of seeing these social media app things. Like, we get it. You want to feel like you're one of the kids or the kids are going to relate to this. Just tell them a cool, compelling story with cool, compelling villains, and they're going to get it. But you trying to relate to people, the younger people on their level, it's never going to work, and it's not hip. It's not cool.
This isn't cool. This isn't awesome. It's been played so much. They were doing this shit back with X-Men Red. This was like years ago, and they just basically pulled out the old tired script and just said, oh, we'll just do this again. This is going to be the same fucking thing and same fucking comic book. We'll just change the characters around. It's awful. It's terrible.
Now, Danny Lore might not know about those older stories, but you would expect the editorial team to know about them and probably steer them away from things that were used or have been used to death. And certainly the evil social media app being used by the evil corporation to corrupt teens has been done to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's kind of the story. Yeah. It's not very well conceived. It's not well executed at all. It's tiresome. It's played out. Now let's get into some of the technical stuff that I don't know that really works. And there's a lot of dialogue. You can see it from this page I'm showing you here. It's Bendis-esque in its use of dialogue. Sometimes less is more. Danny Lore needs to work on getting to the gist. you don't need paragraphs upon paragraphs to get your points across when people are talking. People typically try to get their point across in as few words as possible, and you certainly want to use that in comic books. There's some really, really bad dialogue in this comic. This specific one, there's a boardroom. We have the leader of Roxxon. I got to get a younger person in there so they can be hip and cool. They've hired, his name is Andre Sims, to kind of come in and court the younger readers because he has a connection to Stark Industries or something. But he was disgraced at one point. But this is the dialogue. This is, I guess, is this his agent? It's somebody that works for Roxxon. You're firing me, but I don't understand. You brought me a 20-something egghead who likely hasn't read anything beyond a peer-reviewed journal since he was 10. I'm not in the habit of paying a salary to useless. Goodbye. You, Paige Graham. Yes, ma'am. You're the youngest member of our team, correct? By 3 months, ma'am. 3 months? Who even says that? Adorable. You earned a promotion. And call me Miriam. It fits our image better. Keep up the good work by finding me someone who can actually relate to kids. Of course, Miriam. It's like, it's tough to read.
It is. It's just kind of, it's herky-jerky kind of, it doesn't really flow together, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. This is supposed to be the heir to the throne? What the fuck? I can't even tell that an editor's even touched this.
Probably not. I don't imagine they would touch this, but
No.
This is bad dialogue. There's bad dialogue throughout the comic book. This is probably, in my opinion, the worst. There's a couple other sections that are comparable. In some people's opinion, might be a little bit worse, but Danny Lord needs to work on dialogue. People don't communicate like this. Leaders definitely don't communicate like this, even if they're evil leaders. You should be able to communicate with people. You haven't read a peer review journal since you're 10. Get out of here with that stuff. You sound stupid.
That's bad. You can't even in the balloon boxes. The balloons rather are kind of hard to read. You can't tell where they're coming from.
They're all stacked on top of each other. You don't even know who's talking because there's too much of it.
Yeah, it's hard to follow. The art doesn't really follow what the hell's going on. You're not sure why this guy's still in the frame. It doesn't make any. The bottom frame. You can't tell why he's still in the page. It just doesn't make any sense. It's really, really
also on the top page. There's an entire table between the two. The lady looks absolutely insane. Why would you be promoting an insane person? I get that she's probably supposed to be nervous, but I see mania there. I don't see nervous.
No, she's psycho, and
that's as expressive as the art gets in this entire comic book. And even there, it's not effective.
No, it's not effective because it doesn't show somebody that's capable of leading anything. So,
and then we talked about this earlier, but we're seeing this in a lot of these comics that are featuring teenage heroes in the Marvel Universe, that they're almost validating the government's position that teenagers shouldn't be heroes. Mm-hmm. And we see here that because Miss Marvel Kamala Khan didn't get the result that she wanted, that she's going to kind of bend her principles. And I think this was really effective in demonstrating why Kamala's law was important. They haven't changed no matter what face they put on it, talking about Roxxon. They don't care about us. All Roxxon wants is to use Kamala's law to scare kids into silence, to never speak up against their policies because morals are bad for business. What are they planning with this app, the whole image rehab thing? It's all to keep the law on the books, and they're ready to fight dirty to do it. I know this is going to sound wild coming from me, guys, but maybe, just maybe, we've got to fight just as dirty. So we need to bend our morals and principles. We fought fair, and they made us outlaws anyway, thinking it would weaken us. But they made a huge mistake. They brought the fight to us, to a teenager's ultimate battleground, the internet. If they wanted to force us to play dirty, you didn't get the result you wanted, so now you're going to play dirty and stoop down to the villain's level.
Right.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be a hero. Heroes are supposed to rise above that.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a demonstration of why teenagers shouldn't be heroes in the Marvel Universe, unless they're Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean that's really the only one, isn't it? I mean, it's I mean Miles does a pretty good job, but he's not like saddled with these idiots.
Well, he
But
is because he's on this team and he's going along with it. So this
uh,
not only makes Miss Marvel look stupid, it makes every other person that's on the team that doesn't say, "Listen, we can't bow down to their level. We can't play as dirty as they do. We're the heroes."
yeah, we,
It
we
is
we
basically a
we step
demonstration
in
on
this and we step in this and we're gonna look just as bad as they are. We're gonna look like criminals. So we're gonna validate their opinions of why teenagers shouldn't be superheroes. So
Children of the Atom does the exact same thing. There's a
mhm.
moment where they're kind of complaining at the beginning of Children of the Atom #2. They're like, we got this Kamala's law in the books, and we don't want your teenage mutants to get in trouble out here. And then later on in the story, they're like, we better get to this bank, or not, it was a bank, it was a prison break before the Avengers do. We got to be there in 10 minutes or less, or the Avengers will be there. Listen, if the Avengers are showing up, who have defeated Thanos, who have saved the galaxy numerous times, it's probably not a Children of the Atom problem. Let the Avengers handle it. You know what I mean? It's like you shouldn't be heroes because you're apparently stupid.
Yeah, why shouldn't you be in school? What the hell? Why are you interfering with something that somebody else is already capable and en route to handle? It's a why. It sounds like there's too many fucking superheroes.
Well,
Maybe the Marvel universe is just filled with too many fucking superheroes if they've got a problem with them stacked on top of each other and they've got kids stepping out and getting everything fucked up and don't know what the hell they're doing.
if you want to prove that Kamala's law is wrong, you need to show that these teenage heroes are doing the right thing and it's still not working out for them. You shouldn't show them basically being bad guys
Yeah,
in proving that the law itself is just. And I don't think that's been very effective. And that is not a Danny Lore problem. That is a Marvel Comics problem.
it
And then
is.
the last thing, this is something that you see in a lot of comics today. It's the validation. You're always validating the hero. You never just demonstrate it and let the reader come to a decision or an impression about what's going on. And we've got this. It's a stupid conversation. It's one of those parts that's the dialogue is probably just as bad as the one I showed you. But I'm only going to talk about this part where we have Riri Williams talking about the app and how dangerous it is, and Vision has already identified 315 points of vulnerability, and Riri goes, "I can make a more secure social app in my sleep." And Viz says, "That much is obvious." And then she goes, "I absolutely could." What does that serve but to make Riri Williams insufferable?
She's an expert. Ooh, she's the bestest ever. Oh God.
The constant validation between the characters, it's okay to challenge your characters and make them prove their bona fides, or maybe even prove that they're wrong and that they need to grow. That line of dialogue doesn't make me go, "Oh, Riri Williams is really smart." It makes me go, Vision is a suck up, and Riri Williams comes off as a jerk off.
As an insecure little brat.
Yes.
It's bad. And yeah, she's still stuck in Tony Stark's shadow. That much is obvious, because if they have to keep validating her like this and they have to keep this shit going, what, for 5 years now, 6, whatever, how many years it's been, she's still stuck in his shadow, and they have no one to blame but themselves if that's the case.
We see this so much. This isn't a Danny Lore problem. That's a Marvel problem for the most part. Although you are starting to see it creep into DC Comics as well. So Pele, that's the champions. We could go into more depth about some of the issues with it, but just want to say, hey, the opening scene is ridiculous. It does not prove the point you're trying to make. It just makes your characters look really stupid, and they're reacting in an odd way because it looks like they probably did the right thing. There was no way that they could have known that wasn't a straight up bank heist.
Mm-hmm.
The social media, evil social media app is played out. Stop trying to play to the kids. I know that you want to come off as hip and cool, but it comes off as lame. And then there are definitely some technical issues. There's way too much dialogue. The dialogue that is in there, for the most part, is of poor quality. They're certainly making the teenage heroes in the Marvel universe, in multiple instances, look like Kamala's law is the right thing to do. You probably shouldn't be,
Yeah.
reaffirming that this thing that you're trying to say is bad is actually good in multiple instances on multiple titles. The self-validation, the validation between the characters gets really grating and annoying.
And the hook at the end is just sad.
This is a giant
stupid.
robot.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We haven't seen that before. Oh, come on. It's so bad. It really is. I don't even blame these creators anymore. This is the culture that Marvel's created. This is the atmosphere that Marvel has created in their comics. You keep getting this shit every single month because that's what your expectations are. And fans, I guess, are still keep buying. Not as many fans are buying it. I mean, you've got a book here that's basically selling around 10 to 11,000 now. So, it's barely, I don't even know if it's profitable at that point, but it's if it's holding its head above water, it's barely doing it. And so, I guess it's going to be a reboot after this particular story arc. And just leave it dead, for God's sakes. If they can't do better than this, they need to just let it go and
stop playing Kingmaker.
Stop buying it. Yeah,
stop playing Kingmaker. Stop trying to make these creators more than they are in the moment, because you're setting them up for failure. Stop saying Danny Lore is the next great writer. We don't know that yet. They might be, but based on what we see in Champions, they aren't anywhere close yet.
Yeah, it's not Danny Cates, it's not the editors at Marvel, it's not Marvel's PR team. None of them are the ones who say that someone is the next great whatever. It's the readers, it's the readership, it's the customers, it's the people that are the fans. They're the ones that decide if X person is the next Donny Cates, John Byrne, keep going, all these Chris Claremont, all these great creators from the past. We know when that person is it. We know, not them. And, and them just telling us is just, it's sad. It's sad, it's old, and we know better. Otherwise, the book wouldn't sell 10,000 fucking copies.
I'm suspect whenever I start seeing a new name and then everyone just carte blanche, like, oh, this person's amazing. They're like, oh, sounds like there's something going on in some back channels where people are being told to go out there and say it, because at this point I just don't trust them. And if Danny Lore is going to arrive as the next big thing, let it happen naturally. Let it be because the fans love the work, not because you're trying to push somebody into the spotlight, because you're just setting them up for failure.
Yeah, and I can't see anything but failure for a book like this.